There's a lot of anecdotal advice around on improving your marriage. But if you want something you can really use that will actually make a difference and reignite your marriage, check out the link in the description below.
The question, how do those who are married work through their differences? Answer by Jeffrey Whittison. By wanting to have a healthy marriage more than they want to win a particular conflict. There will inevitably be differences in every marriage. Some will be big and very consequential decisions, others will be tiny irritations. All of those things can add up to be destructive to a relationship. The healthiest marriages are ones where people learn to get over the small stuff and talk openly about the important things. When you communicate clearly about what you want and why it's important to you, a lot of conflicts resolve themselves. More problems than I would have thought result from people not really understanding the other person's point of view. Most of the time, couples want pretty much the same things. They want a happy and peaceful family, a nice and safe home. They want to take care of their kids, if any, and do things that fulfill them. If one spouse is truly unhappy about something, most of the time, the other spouse doesn't want them to be miserable. Often, just talking things out makes a solution clear. In some cases, there are more serious and basic conflicts about what should be done, but communication is still vital. If both of you understand the other person's perspective, then it can help you to come to a compromise solution, even if you don't both get everything you want. Compromise is often not easy, but if you're truly committed to your marriage, resolving conflicts becomes more important than getting your own way. If one or both parties cares more about getting what they want than having a healthy and happy marriage, I don't hold out much hope for the relationship lasting. There is a smaller category of conflicts that one could consider irresolvable, where neither side is at fault, but they have opposite views on something really important. These include things like decisions about having children, or where you'll live, or whose career takes precedence. These often have no answer. There's no satisfactory middle ground between having and not having children. Often the only way to resolve these is for one party to give in and do what the other wants, for the sake of staying together. That's a really rough solution, though, and carries a serious risk that the person who made the concession will resent it over time, and introduce a lot of future conflict. That's why I've always argued that issues like that need to be talked out and agreed to before a couple decides to get married. Disagreements on them can and should drive serious questions about whether a marriage is a good idea. But, aside from basic and irresolvable issues about what you want your life together to look like, most conflicts in marriage can be resolved simply by remembering that you're with this person for life, you want them to be happy, and you're both willing to make sacrifices to make that happen. If two people both feel that way, and talk freely about it, most marital strife can be resolved. Answer by Madhuri Puri Bhattacharya. Husband and I are different. Very different. Obviously, that reflects in our day-to-day lives. Sometimes, it just gets brushed off, and sometimes, it turns into this pointless war waged upon one another till either of us finds the other one cute suddenly and forget why we were fighting in first place. Here are a few instances where we struggle. We go to a restaurant. I want pasta. He wants Sizzler. We then try to remember what we had last time and have the other thing. Works most of the times. I want to shop. For like the millionth time in 2 months. Husband knows it's mere waste of money, so reprimands me. I refrain just so as not to hurt him. But works out for me in the long run. He doesn't watch indie movies. I do. So making him watch one involves careful planning, including emotional blackmail, cajoling, coaxing and threatening. We watch some we don't. So win-win for both of us. I want to go for a holiday every now and then. He keeps reminding me about practicality like leaves and money. That keeps me grounded. I'm still a learner when it comes to managing the house. He is good at it. He assigns me daily chores, which is a big relief for me. Else I feel lost. At the end of the day, neither of us can stay mad at each other. We may have different opinions, but we never let that diminish the love between us. A little compromise and a little more adjustment paves way for a happier, if not a perfect life. Answer by Roy Martin. What a great question. This issue has been studied by scientists. They've determined that if you take two groups of couples, one with relationships that stand the test of time and the other that fall apart, there is no measurable difference in the things the two groups have conflict or in the amount of overall conflict. I find that astounding. People in good marriages argue just as much as those in failed marriages, and they argue about the very same things: children, money, sex, etc. What's very different is the way they treat each other when differences arise. I write as one with more than his share of failed marriages, twice, and relationships, many, who now successfully navigates the currents of conflict in my third marriage. Stuff comes up for us. We have differences. How can we not? We're two different human beings, each with our own emotional wounds. But we work hard not to blame or shame or criticize each other, but rather to look within ourselves for our own part when conflict arises. If one imagines a perfected spiritual being, whomever that is for you, Jesus, Mary, Muhammad, the Buddha, etc., imagine how that person would respond to another's pain. Not with disdain. Not with anger. Probably with love and compassion. So anytime we're not in a place of emotional ease, but rather disease, we are ourselves implicated. We bring our own troubles to our relationships. Rather than immediately trying to hash it out, we've learned to take space and just reflect on what's come up. We look to the roots of our own challenges, which we know, from training, reflection and experience, always go back to early childhood. Those old wounds get triggered by our partners but are in no way authored by them. They are the baggage we ourselves bring to the party. We communicate in a way that places listening first. We reflect each other's words and ask if we're understanding correctly. We ask if the other has more to share. We share the parts of his/her perspective that make sense to us, using words like "you make sense," essentially giving empathy to each other. This reconnects us. We take turns being heard and understood, reflected and empathized with. Over time, less and less conflict arises as we've come to understand ourselves and each other ever more deeply. We've become less likely to take things personally. We've learned to trust each other more each time we've walked through a narrow place. One teacher of these techniques says relationship conflict isn't solved so much as outgrown. We've been together since April 2010. We've been married spiritually, and have lived together since July 2010, and we've been legally married since August 2012. Our relationship is stronger now than on the day we met, and it grows stronger with each new day. No 7-year itch for us. Occasionally some pretty woman flirts with me and draws my attention quite strongly. But am able to pull away by reminding myself that such feelings are illusory. Infatuation is fleeting. Every real relationship is challenging. Every relationship has points of conflict, typically the same ones again and again until each point of conflict has been and mastered. Plus, I remind myself of Paul Newman's reply when asked if it was hard to slough off the attention he received from starlets. Newman, this man with far more appeal to the opposite sex than I, who could have had a harem of gorgeous women had he wanted one, responded, "Why would I go out for hamburger when I have filet mignon at home?" His attitude, in my view, reflects real maturity and a consciousness of what it takes to nurture true intimacy.